Okay, there are a few people who aren't here today, so I'm actually recording this lesson so that they can follow along at home and know what to do. We're going to learn a new way of taking notes and of understanding what you're reading. And it's called sticky lighting, hence sticky notes. Because when you have a textbook, you can't highlight it unless you purchase the textbook. If you purchase a textbook, then you can highlight it and you can write in it and whatever. But when it's a textbook that other students are going to be using that you're going to return at the end of the year, you have to use sticky notes. Or you have to take notes in another way. The nice thing about sticky lighting is that the notes are with the textbook. So you can see the original as well as what you're writing. The nice thing about these textbooks in particular is, look, they've got this nice sticky note spaced place here. One thing I like, you need to stop talking for two reasons. One, because I'm trying to teach, and two, because I am recording this lesson. One thing that I like is I like having different sizes of sticky notes. Okay? Having different sizes or different colors means that you can coordinate your sticky notes. So if you have different colors or there are people beside you, you may want to, different sizes or different colors, you may want to share. You may not. That's fine. I wouldn't necessarily do it right now, just as you need to. Sticky lighting is much the same as normal highlighting. When you read something, you want to be able to note the important parts. You want to be able to ask questions. You want to interact with what you're reading. And this is true when we're reading novels as well as when we're reading textbooks. So we're going to go through. We're going to read this together. We're going to do the first one together, sticky lighting as we go. And then you guys are going to take over and you're going to read the rest of chapter 2. Okay? Ignore, like there's the investigation. You'll skip over that because that's not part of the actual lesson, the content. This is part of practicing it, so you wouldn't do that. If there's an experiment, which I don't think there is, but if there's an experiment, you won't do that because, again, that's part of the practicing the learning, not the actual acquiring the learning. But the other sections will do. So, when we look at textbooks, I've talked about this a little bit before, what do we need to do? Where do we get meaning when we have textbooks? Yeah? Okay, how are we going to know to use that? What indicates that, hey, you could look in the glossary? Yeah, so in this textbook, we've got some highlighted words that will help us. These are words that we're supposed to know. They're in the glossary if we can't figure them out or if we don't know them already. What else do you use to make meaning in a textbook? Yeah?
The highlighted words.
Yeah, the highlighted words. What else? Yeah?
The title and heading.
Titles and headings, okay? They help you make sense of what's coming next. Textbooks, nonfiction writing in general, but textbooks in particular, are pretty good at trying to break it up into different sections. So we have this section, 2.1, is called Food for All. What's it probably going to be about?
Food for all.
Food. What kind of food? Plants don't have food, do they? Yes. Different types of foods for different types of animals. Nutrients. So it's not just food, but it's the things that we need in order to survive, or at least some of them. The things that we consume in order to survive. Okay? What else in these textbooks, and I'm just going to move over here to be, real subtle about it. What else in these textbooks help you make meaning? Yes? Key ideas. What do the key ideas tell us?
Key ideas of the chapter.
Yeah, what is this chapter going to be focused on? You can't really see very well, but that's okay because you should have your own textbook. So what is the chapter going to be focused on Here. Yes.
How energy flows through ecosystems.
Okay, how energy flows through ecosystems. Yes.
The sun is the source of all the energy in most ecosystems.
Mm-hmm. The sun is the source of the energy that flows through these ecosystems. Yes.
Matter cycles within ecosystems.
Yeah. Matter cycles within ecosystems. Yeah.
Models that we use to show energy flows within ecosystems.
Good. Okay, so you can use a model to show how this energy flows and how it in an ecosystem. And yes.
A model can be used to show how the amount of energy that is available to organisms decreases as each level of energy changes.
Okay, so what we have here is energy flows through ecosystems. The sun is the source of the energy for most ecosystems. We can use models to show how energy moves through ecosystems, but it's also telling us that the amount of energy that is available decreases as it flows through an ecosystem. So in this, what we use the sticky lighting for are things like summaries or questions. Does anyone have a question about the key ideas? That doesn't surprise me. I mean, this is just very brief information. So what I would do, and this is why I have multiple levels of sticky notes, is I do a little sticky note right there, just because that's really important. And I'm going to want to come back to that. Okay? So I take a tiny sticky note and I write the word important, or actually for me I write IMP because I like using abbreviations. Okay? And I leave that in there. Okay, so having read this, what we want to do is, what are interesting ideas? What are important ideas? What questions do we have based on this? Mm-hmm.
That different organisms have different needs, and some have more needs, and those needs are different between all the organisms.
Okay, so on our sticky note, we can write different organisms, different needs. What else did you say?
The amount of needs are different for each.
Okay, so different organisms have different needs, and the amount of the needs are different for different organisms. So I take that and I put this here. Okay, and now I've sticky lighted that whole section. Now that we've read it, we need to do two things. We need to summarize it. What was the main idea in this section that we just read? Yeah. Okay, so, okay, and how do we determine what an organism's role is? Niche is important, but that's not exactly part of this section. Or not this section, but this. It's not part exactly of its role. Yeah?
How it interacts with other organisms.
Okay. Read the second sentence. An organism's role in an ecosystem depends on how it obtains its food, because this affects how it interacts with other organisms in the ecosystems. So is the organism's role based on how it interacts? How it gets food. Okay? So the organism's role comes from how it gets food, because that affects how it interacts. So let's think of an example. Okay, it's saying that the organism's role depends on how it gets food, because that affects how it interacts with other organisms. Think of an example of an organism. Yeah.
Say like a wolf.
Okay, so how does a wolf get its food?
It would attack and kill, say,
rabbit, and so that would affect the rabbit's life because it's dead, and it would not it would like all the scavengers. It would give the scavengers an extra corpse to eat, and
Okay, what about some kind of plant? Okay, so redwood. How does a tree get its food? Yes.
It's from the soil. All the nutrients in the soil. Like worms, they get nutrients in the soil, and then some animals eat like the plants off the tree.
The bugs.
Okay.
Yeah.
But there's something else. Yeah?
The tree gives the animals air.
That is true. Where does the tree get its food, though? The nutrients aren't exactly its food. Yeah.
The carbon dioxide that it takes in.
Before that even. Yeah.
Photosynthesis.
Which means sun's energy. Okay, so as we're sticulating, we are coming up with what, like a summary of what we've read, but we're also coming up with some examples, because this is meant to help us understand. The highlighted words there, those are going to be important. So I'm going to choose a different color of sticky note just because I happen to have it. You don't have to choose a different color of sticky note. And we have on here niche. And then later on we have photosynthesis. So we're going to define these words. What's a niche? Yeah.
How an organism gets food and interacts with other organisms.
Organism. How it gets food.
And interacts with other organisms.
How interacts. There's one more part.
And how it plays a part into the ecosystem.
Before that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so all that is part of its niche. Photosynthesis we'll get to after we read the next section.